I find it necessary to begin this video by stating that I have nothing but regret over Tribeca. Right? I can call it satanic all I want, but right? I had no right to abort his magic. That was like hubris. That was like the most arrogant hubris of my life. I never had any reasonable expectation of him to forgive me. But in that way, right? He has no legitimate claim to hold those women from coming to me if they would prefer to be with me, despite his status, despite his name, and all these things, right? That these are both true, right? That I can not be a movie star, right? That's fine. I'll be fine. I haven't been my whole life. I suppose I'll continue to not be. But if those women, right, are in fact deeply tortured by him on a fundamental level, right? Then it's equally true that he has to accept that there are schools and factions to psychic occultism. And when someone prefers a different school, that they can devote their energy to that school. That's like, there it is. Right? And so I'm struggling in a real way of like trying to see how it all will end, you know? Like, does it all end with me in a psychiatric hospital? You know, does it end with him in a straitjacket like Hannibal Lecter? Does it end with me having all these women? Does it end with a mountain of corpses, right? Does it end with first-degree rapes projected in every movie house in the world, right? And I've notified every film commission in the world, the Chinese government, like literally any fucking possible way you could fathom to communicate how serious and disgusting this is, I've done it. Right? Up to and including, right, these psychics that I wrote earlier, and I suppose I'm going to start including them in every email that I send. Right? Not because I deserve to take everything from him, right? In fact, it's the opposite, right? That I feel that he can't lay claim to them anymore, right? Not because I'm deserving, but because he's undeserving, because, right, he just hates himself. And I never meant to, right? I didn't realize, right? I thought that, right? I didn't realize, and I was so naive, of course. Legacies, you know, all these things, right? That he was comfortable, that he knew that I would be cool, right? And I was so uncomfortable, I couldn't see that he was cool. I just saw that he was being a weird psychic occultist. That's all I saw. And I saw it as a satanic pact for money, and I suppose that's what he saw it as too. That beyond the pussy, that beyond like fulfilling his sick fantasies, that I should feel obligated to give him what he wanted because he was going to make me an instant movie star. Right? And so like my point is that he was nonchalant, so I was nonchalant. That's like, right? If I want someone to do a job, I reach out to them and say, I like you for this job. That's, right, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't say you're not a strong psychic. It says that you respect someone for what they have to offer professionally. And so he was doing that in his way, and I have nothing but regret over it. I don't look myself in the mirror and say, yeah, take that, Quentin. Because I see how flawed he is, how awful he's been to these women all these years. And now it has become like a literal spiritual siege for the soul of show business, for the soul of Hollywood. That's like what it's turned into. Where, right, if I was a gambling man, I got a strong feeling that every hot piece of pussy in town is in my pocket. Because I'm the only man to actually stand up for women's rights and not expect to get a piece of pussy out of it. Right? Doesn't mean I don't deserve hot pussy. Right? But what I'm saying is, like, this is about decency. This is about, right? Like, you can, like we're all allowed to, like, have our barriers and, like, the walls that divide us between the world. Right? But, right, if the grass is greener, gotta be cool. And so now, it seems like the whole industry is like staring at him saying, what's your problem? Right? And this is what he's struggling with. That he's right? And again, this is my fault. It's my fault. It's my fault. He saw me as his successor. Like, he did see that, right? But in his weird, sort of like perverse psychic way, right? Which I don't respect. I don't respect any psychic. I like discussing psychic occultism. I like talking about those things. And I won't denigrate you. I'll let you say that, like, you might say you're clairvoyant and all these things, and after you've made your case, I'll probably say something to the effect of, isn't that more of divination than clairvoyance? Right? Isn't that more of, right? That's like, right? That true clairvoyance, in fact, is logic. It's not, it has nothing to do with raw divinity, right? True clairvoyance emerges in acts of creation. That's like, isn't that, like, that's probably the strongest scientific truth in that way. That when you write a song, right, ask Bob Dylan, right, he says, oh, I don't know where it came from, I channeled it, right? When you write a novel, when you write a screenplay, when you act in a great performance, all these things, like, that's like true clairvoyance. And that's what he was touching on, right, in his way, right? I saw it as a perversion because I'm too wise, I'm too smart. That's my problem. He wanted me to be young, dumb, and full of cum. That's like what he wanted. And I get that. I get it because I am that. Not young, but not old, right? Peak of my sexuality, most young women would say. But my point is that when he turned his back on me, I thought, this guy thinks that I'll submit for money. That's like, oh, okay, like, oh, so I see. I give you my mind and then you give me money. I refuse, never. No. That's not how I operate, and I wish I would have just done it, of course. I wish I would have just said, cool, yeah, I see what you want. Because the truth, right, the actual truth was that I got all this fucking hot pussy that's like hot for you, right? And on another level, I'm terrified to speak to you because you've already stolen my wife from me, right? And that's the hardest truth for me. That's the hardest one for me. Because I never, like, goddamn, you know, like, I slept with one married woman. I'm not gonna bullshit the world. You know, like, I don't lie. That's not what I do. I didn't know her husband at the time. I met him a couple weeks later. And he asked me, and I lied right to his face. I told him what he needed to hear. So I guess I have some sort of precedent, like, in that way. And the joke that I always make is unavailable women love me, right? Not because I'm fine, because I'm like a golden god that will, right, make you come with my mind. But because, right, I've taken a vow of celibacy, and they see all that sexual magnetism, and they know that I respect them, and that I'm not trying to get between their legs, right? And that's like, you get it? Like, that's like unavailable women. Like, women who get married, like almost 90, you know, some 95% of the time, 99% of the time, after about a year or two, right, they start thinking about their options. They start saying, oh, well, like vows. Like, aren't vows made to be broken, and all these things. And so Daniela, it seems pretty obvious that she's, like, for all that she's so beautiful, she's the, goddamn, you know, like, goddamn. When I see her picture of her wedding, like, in that dress, like, with the shoulder down, the shoulder strap down, right, I get excited sexually, 100%. But for all that's, like, obvious, that's, like, you know, only a dumbass would say otherwise, you know. Seems like she has maybe had, like, a hard road as a result of her father, as a result of, right? And so this is why she was like, hot American director, right? He doesn't care about my father. And then, right, he started being weird and sadistic and evil. And then she saw me, and I kind of like, my headshot actually kind of does look like her father, like in a real way. Though I'm Irish, I'm Scots-Irish, I'm not Polish, but you see what I'm saying, right? That I'm a singer, he's a singer, and all these things that I never considered. I didn't even know who her father was until I was on the street in LA in the middle of this. Right? You get it? That he made me think about her father, and now I'm divining, right? No clairvoyance, right? Or maybe it is clairvoyance. It is raw logic. You know, it's Freudian logic. You know, it stands to reason that I would love a blonde because of, like, my mother. Right? But maybe I love an Israeli because she sees something in me. Maybe that's equally valid intellectually, you know. My point is that Quentin has never reconciled, right, who he is since he's learned the truth about what he is biologically with who he is as a child of God, right? That he's been into esotericism his whole life, right? It's LA, cool, psychic mind games, hell yeah. I make you come with my mind. I don't know that he can do that, but I do that, right? But then when he learned, right, he just spiraled deeper and deeper into the hole. Right? And so if it was William Friedkin that turned him on, right, that was his psychic daddy, director of The Exorcist, right? Then it kind of like, in fact, does make sense that he would go completely off the rails after he died in 2017, doesn't it? It kind of does make sense that maybe in 2013 or 14 after Django, when he learned, that he would tell William and he would say, it's okay, and you make your peace with it, and you adopt, because he was actually wise and he was a child of God. That's the point. And so Quentin has gone off the rails in this palpable, dangerous way because he doesn't want to admit the truth that he can only, right? That he can't, right? And it's really hard. It's a hard road to walk, and this is why we're opposites, and why it's like almost funny at this point, right? That I can make a baby every time I fuck. And I don't mean that like figuratively. I mean that like literally, right? Like yes, through my psychic occultism mastery. That's like what I'm saying, right? I pull the egg, right, out of your ovary and into your womb, right, with my mind, all these things, right? Right? Oh, you don't believe me? Let me fuck you one time. You get it? But it comes at a cost. It comes at a high cost. It's not like it just comes to me. Right? And I don't like talking about it because I don't have to talk about it. I'm not a psychic stud. I fucking hate that. Right? All the bitches in town love that. I know they do. They want me to soak their ovaries. And I hate that. It doesn't interest me. Spiritual child of God, right? And this is the part that he was never able to reconcile in his mind, right? That he saw me operating all the way up here on this like hardcore intellectual frequency, but I am like super fine, right? That I'm like a hot man, right? And so he set up this initiation, and then, right, when I balked at it, right, if everyone was all keen and hunky-dory, then he would have just paid me for my scene and fucking moved on, right? But if the truth, right, is that all of the women said, I think we need like some sincerity in our lives. I think that we can't be with you anymore if you can't reconcile with Brian because he's wonderful, and right, then that kind of makes a lot of sense for why he would exact such a sadistic torture upon me, the same torture he exacts on those women constantly. You get it? Right? And why he would do everything he can to compel me to suicide, make me believe that he's sending people to murder me constantly, make me believe that I have to worry about Sony Pictures like committing high corporate espionage. Right? This is serious. This is not like, it's not a joke, It's not a fucking joke, right? That Quentin is so unresolved in his mind, right? That he set up those scenes and made it to where him and Brad were the only people there, and he operated the camera and everything, right? And while those women were bound and gagged and blinded to where they can't scream, can't speak, can't plead with their eyes, right? Quentin's hovering over them while Brad Pitt is forcibly raping and impregnating them, possibly. Maybe they're not pregnant, but for sure he forcibly penetrated them. And Quentin is screaming in their mind's eye, saying, right, where's that loser Brian? Right, where's Brian now? I control you. Fuck Brian, he hates you. Right? And all the while they're thinking about me. Yes, that's the point. It's so yucky. It's so disgusting. It's high black magic evil. Right? And so we can't keep the blinders on. We have to kind of liberate ourselves spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, sexually. Right? All these things. Right? All the things that LA alleges they care about with all the drag queen story hour bullshit, right? If Quentin Tarantino represents the highest levels of Hollywood potential, then it shows that there is in fact a deep-seated sexual repression on the highest levels of Hollywood. And this is why I talk shit to Ari Emanuel every time I send him an email and say, let me fuck your wife. You get it? This is why I talk shit to David Mamet every time I write him an email and say, oh, you think this is funny? Let me blow your daughter's back out one time. You get it? Because this is it's stupid. It's stupid. Oh, I don't like your mind games. Cool, whatever. Be Hollywood, right? But if that hot pussy needs me, right, you got to be cool or you're a fucking creep. That's the point. So, right, God bless.